I can hear you just fine. I've got you going through the speaker.
Uh,
Hey, man, your house looks great. Is this your new place?
yeah.
Kick ass, man. That's nice. Nice, nice, nice. And so, I'd like to welcome everyone to another exciting episode of You Don't Know. You don't know, huh? So don't act like you do. With us this evening from Wyoming is my business partner, friend, and confidant, Remote Viewing. Remote, are you with us?
I am here.
All right, kick ass, man, kick ass. And so let's get things rolling. The war against transhumanism has begun. And we ain't fucking around this time, huh? Ooh, we'll use that Occam's razor and cut right to the point. Cut through all the bullshit and arm ourselves with the truth and whatever else we need to arm ourselves with. All right, man. So, been following the attacks on Miles Johnston recently, and let me tell you, there's this one guy. I don't have his name right off the top of my head, but I will put a screenshot of him up here, of course. It's him and another lady. I think the lady was an interviewee on the Basis Project several years ago, and they totally turned on him. And I have not verified this, but this man is even saying that Dave Marrow has turned on. Do you know who Dave Marrow is? He's a black man. That super soldier. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna make any premature things about that because me and Dave Merrill are friends, and we're in a somewhat secretive, I guess you'd call it a Facebook group, even though it's not really a group. It's just a chat with some really authentic super soldiers, experiencers, maybe a couple of fakers and wannabes, but there's only very few people in there, and I'm about the only person that did not know Max Spears personally, while he was still alive. So it's a very interesting group with some really seasoned veterans in it. And I've been asked by the administrator of that group not to mention the name of it or what I call it or mention her name or anything like that. Not because she's not a public person, but only because she's been under attack recently. So how's the weather up there in Wyoming?
It's probably about the hottest part of the year.
Yeah, we're having triple digits down here. I think it broke there was a 3-digit spell that was supposed to be over 30 days long, but I don't think it made it that long. I think, there's a couple days in there that were below 3 digits, but yeah, with the heat index and all that stuff, they felt like they were 3 digits, over 100 degrees. So been pretty hot down here.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, obviously we're going to edit this video a little bit. We're going to talk about some fun stuff, and then also a lot of business stuff that's going to be edited out. But also it gives the viewers on some of the stuff that we decide to let in there, some little tidbits and juicy bits of the conversation. It kind of gives the viewer an idea of what goes on behind the scenes of a YouTube channel like this and all the work, that it takes to make it happen.
Yeah.
I've got to report a remote. I heard from Neil Sanders just a few days ago, and we're still getting the date firmed up. It's going to be towards the end of this month. But of course, Neil Sanders, he's the expert on mind control. Have you heard of him?
I think I see him on Facebook.
Yeah, well, he's been a guest on a lot of shows, and Let me just look this up right quick because you may have heard of the book that he's written. He draws together the correspondences between marketing and mind control, which really is resonant with me because there's nothing closer to mind control except for marketing, with in my opinion the exception of maybe possibly extreme death metal, which I happen to love, but I also love marketing and advertising. So. It's just I don't like mind control too much. You know, talking about this, the voice to skull technology. You've heard of that, right?
Yes, I have.
Well, you know, I've never had my hands on any, but I feel for sure that it's real. It's definitely a reality. And one thing I'd like to mention is I personally was hired when I was doing had my security camera business and was doing low voltage and stuff. And well, I still am for select customers, but I was hired to do some 7-Elevens. And what I was installing there is called a sonic waterfall. And the reason they call it a waterfall is because the sound just drops straight down, just like a waterfall. And what it does is it creates a little zone that's the size of one person. So when the person is standing under this speaker, they hear very lightly, you know, the music and stuff and maybe some ads, but no one to their left or right or in front or in back of them hears it. It's directed sound used for advertising. And of course, there are allegations that there are subliminal messages, you know, in this sound. The voice to skull transmissions. That's not. I think there may be an element of sound in that, but I think it just starts at your skull. In other words, it's using some type of waves aimed at your skull, and your skull acts as a resonant chamber or a speaker-like, and so you know you actually think you're hearing the sounds when in effect it really actually is coming in through your skull. You know, but they have the voice of God on there and stuff like that. I mean, I've never experienced the phenomenon, but there's a lot of targeted individuals that have been affected from it, from what I understand. What are your greatest concerns as far as the war on transhumanism, the biggest threat of the transhumanist agenda?
Probably weather modification.
Oh, that's a biggie. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's the idea that Hurricane Katrina, you know, that devastated New Orleans, and I happened to be there just right after that. And let me tell you, the city was devastated. There's the idea that this was maybe not HAARP, the High Active Auroral Research Project that the United States government runs up there in Alaska, but possibly an attack from the Chinese and their weather weaponry. I don't know what to make of that. But the tsunami, you know, the big tsunami that everyone remembers several years ago and a lot of people died, there has been allegations, and this is, you know, unsubstantiated, I'm just repeating allegations, that that was our machine that did that damage and created that tsunami. You know, for the average layman, average listener, it may seem fantastic that there could even be such things as a weather weaponry, that we could actually manipulate the weather to that degree. Unfortunately, from my research, and I have read Dr. Nick Begich's book, Angels Don't Play This HAARP, HAARP spelled H-A-A-R-P. And that's the government designation for this device, which means High Active Auroral Research Project. But I think it is aptly apropos that it is named HAARP, because there are, you know, we're learning, you know, only 10 years ago or 15 years ago, they were telling us that everything is constituted of light. You know, even matter, everything, it all comes back to light. And they've really done a 180 on that. And all the top scientists, or not all of them, but many of them are the theory that's in vogue right now is that everything is created by sound. And even light is created by sound. Well, somebody might have the argument, well, isn't the speed of light faster than the speed of sound? Well, yes, or so we've been told. There was a recent experiment, I think last year, done at a major American university. I can't remember if it was Stanton. I think it was somewhere on the East Coast. And they did an experiment that proved that the speed of sound is actually faster than the speed of light. Well, I mean, that doesn't, you know, make sense when you're first thinking of it, because when you see a lightning storm, you know, you see the lightning and then you hear the thunder. So, you know, that right there shows you that the light is faster than sound. And so I don't know really what the ramifications or the procedures are on that experiment, but I assume it's something like there's two aspects to sound. You know, one of them's much slower than light and the other one's faster than light. I don't know. You'd have to, you know, the viewer would would have to look into that. I don't have any links on that right now. What are your concerns, Remote, with weather weaponry? Besides the obvious.
Well, I don't know how obvious the rocket fuel is, for one thing, in addition to the jet fuel. So less obvious than the jet fuel might be the rocket fuel.
Oh, okay. Now, are you talking? Now, excuse me. Please pardon my ignorance, but when you say jet fuel or rocket fuel, exactly, are you talking about the stuff that's emitted from jets, or what fuel are you talking about? I mean, why is it up there? Go ahead.
Space shuttle and sounding rockets, and then there's the possibility of creating an additional layer for controlling the weather from space, superseding the control of the atmosphere from the power spin from cloud seeding. You can also drop chemicals out from space. Okay,
well, but when you say the rocket fuel, are you talking about to carry this payload into space? Or what did you mean by what aspect does the rocket fuel play?
Well, for example, tests have been done over the last couple decades, maybe even longer, or actually definitely longer, showing that you can do weather modification by dumping some of the same chemicals that the jets dump out from space. Like, for example, every time certain rockets go off, there's up to 300,000 tons of aluminum and then barium. And then if you want to talk about maybe who's paying for all these metals and follow the money kind of a situation, they're dumping sometimes expensive metals like neodymium, rare earth elements.
Yeah, you're right. So it does beg the question, where is all the money coming to fund all this? Now, it's interesting that you'd mentioned the jet fuel and the rocket fuel, and also these, like, for instance, aluminum, because in many parts of the world, and especially this country, after the chemtrails have been up there, some people take soil samples and stuff like that, and they're finding that, these fine particulates, that there is micro traces of metals in these particulates. And so I've read some interesting articles, and there's a number of ways that they can do these chemtrails. But believe it or not, and Kautzvela, Harold, Harald, Harold Kautzvela, Kautzvella, Harold Kautzvela, who has been on the BASIS project. He is one of the world's leading scientists who's been blowing the whistle on this chemtrails and the rise of Morgellons disease, which they found there's a definite connection, and nanotechnology. Because that is what is claimed, at least by Harold Kautzvela, is what's really going on with chemtrails. It may be doing some other stuff, whatever. I don't think the idea isn't so much to poison the human race, to make our lives end prematurely. It is actually to change us, getting back to this transhumanism thing. To put this nanoparticulates and this nanotechnology inside of our bodies, stuff that can change our DNA, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's a scenario right out of Frankenstein. But to get it to everyone, they need to use aerosol methods. Put it through the air that we breathe and stuff like that, and it eventually lands in the creeks and everything like this. And but that's maybe the way you could poison people, like with Agent Orange back during the Vietnam. But this stuff is alive. It can be activated with microwave transmissions. And they're even saying that it bears a striking resemblance to, da-da-da-da, you got it, the black goo. I mean, it boggles the imagination to see all these things coming together, as one weaponized technology.
Yeah, there's one substance they use potentially in the aerosol process. I think it's called carbon black.
Argon black?
Carbon black.
Oh, carbon black. Oh, okay. Huh. That's fascinating. I think that's related to the nanoparticulates, because if I'm not mistaken, they are the particular nanoparticulates that they're using are carbon based, atoms and molecules and stuff. So, I mean, that's more, verification right there. There's been a lot of speculation about what the black goo actually is. I don't know. You don't know. The listener, you don't know. Do you know, Remote?
Strictly speaking, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I don't either, but I can, give some hearsay and give some ideas that I've heard kicked around on the internet and stuff like that. So please keep in mind this is merely speculation, but very interesting nonetheless. We're told that the black goo is somehow alive. That it can, in other words, Harold Kaltzvela has been assigned to study this stuff, and he was also working on some supercomputers. Let me interject this. When it comes to supercomputers that some of the world's top scientists need to do their work for maybe NASA, university research, whatever it is, interesting fact I learned is I don't know how many quote-unquote supercomputers are or where they draw the line, because, I mean, obviously a supercomputer 10 years ago is not the supercomputers that they have today. But I found it a fascinating fact to know that all of the world's supercomputers, or at least all of the ones that matter, are all owned by the energy industry. Gas, oil, nuclear, those guys that we pay our bills to every month. A big portion of our paycheck goes to, pay for fossil fuels and all types of, explosive type of, fuels to make energy when, if there is such thing as 0-point energy or free energy or something like this, then we wouldn't be paying those bills, but we are. So you can see why all these efforts to promulgate free energy have been stifled rather harshly. That guy that made the car, there's been a number of people using different methods that have actually made cars that will run on water. And I think actually one of the most popular ones is it's just some kind of hydrogen generator. If you have water and air and some type of electrical force, you can generate hydrogen. And then I guess that this can be burned for fuel, apparently running an engine that will power up the thing that uses to make it, basically free energy, as far as I can tell. I mean, it'll use water. But of course, this man, he was warned repeatedly to quit his demonstrations and stuff like that. And unfortunately, he committed suicide. He was so upset about his gift to mankind that he decided to go ahead and kill himself. And if you believe that, I got some beachfront property in Arkansas, I can sell you. Because that's a bunch of fucking bullshit. He was suicided. But anyway, getting back to the black goo. There's actually old Roman coins and older that depict the black goo. There's ancient artwork that depicts the black goo. So the black goo is something that's been with us for quite a while. And Harold Kaltzvela put it in these two containers, and they were rumbling inside the containers, trying to get out of, literally wanting to get to one another. Black goo attracts black goo, but it's more than just an attraction, they try to get together. And there have been a number of people that have been killed supposedly by the black goo, including 25 to 45. We never did get the number straight, or Miles Johnston didn't when he reported this, or he might have come back later and said it was 25 instead of 45. Anyway, I can't remember. Marconi scientists, some of the world's top scientists have died in connection with this black goo that they recovered at the Falkland Islands. Okay, I hope we're not going right now too fast for the listener, because I mean, there's just information's just coming at you. Newsflash: the Falkland Island Wars that you remember from the 80s. It's now being said, and we wondered at the time, okay, why is England fighting Argentina over these worthless sandbars that can even hardly be called islands? Almost all uninhabited, almost. and there really nothing made sense. You know, they were saying it was, you know, British pride or, you know, just a bunch of stupid shit like that. And what it turned out about is there was just a ton of this black goo out there at the Falkland Islands. And they brought in, they filled like a tanker up with that stuff partially. You know, I don't know how much they got. But there's British troops that were there fighting that conflict and also in charge of guarding the shipment coming back. That a lot of them have died, and then others of them are suffering some very serious medical conditions, you know, unknown ailments, and apparently the British government is not being very helpful, you know, because I guess they know what's really going on. It's my hunch, because, you know, we've had as a couple of people, even borderline super soldiers or whatever, I can't remember his name, but one of these guys was brought forward by Miles Johnston. And he's claiming to almost have some type of super powers as a result of his contact with the black goo. And, you know, part of the mythos of the black goo is that however much was brought back to England, maybe it got out of control, maybe they did it personally, but, you know, on purposely. But a lot of it was dumped just like down the sewer. And to me, that sounds like purposely. But there is some young man that somehow was down by a little creek or something like that, and he claims to have been infected by the black goo. But unlike many people, he has increased in intelligence, perception, awareness. His senses have become more keen, and he is stronger and faster. Faster, stronger, smarter. So that's interesting and intriguing, but I'm not going to be signing up for that anytime soon.
Would you ever sign up for the new branch of the military, the Space Force?
No, you know, I don't own a television, so I count on you a lot to bring me my news. What's going on with that?
It's the supposedly the latest branch of the military.
What is it? It's like it's mom and dad, or what?
Well, like we got you know, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marines, and now potentially was just announced that there will be a U.S. Space Force.
Oh, a U.S. Space Force. Oh, okay. Wow.
I was kind of thinking about, well, maybe they have something to do. If you want, if I maybe considered.
What is it that you considered about it?
Well, I'm not quite sure what the application process would be in comparison to the other branches of the military, but it might be something to go ahead and get involved with. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might be. Remote, let me turn up the volume on this speaker right quick. Just give me a moment. That way I can hear you a little bit better. Okay, will you say something like testing?
Test.
Okay. I think
test.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's better. That's louder. Stand by. All right. Yeah, I think we got your a little bit louder now, so I can hear you better.
You beat me to the glasses removal.
Oh, we did it right on cue, didn't we? We must be following the same script here. Yeah. And of course, he'll, this. We'll edit this portion out. I talked to my friend, in his opinion, what we're doing wrong is we need to be publishing a lot more. And that means probably videos. I mean, actually, I don't think so much, maybe not need to do so many. I think blogging. We need to put out a lot more blogs. But also another idea he had, because he's read some books about like becoming a celebrity through YouTube or something like that. And when he said that a lot of these books agree on is consistency, I guess in your format maybe, and then maybe on, for lack of a better word, scheduling. You know what I mean? So in other words, if we had a show that was going to be on at a specific time every week, then that way we would increase our viewership, because the people would, schedule time to make it or whatever. It makes sense. The only and I was thinking about, yeah, great. Why weren't we doing that already? Well, I've got the answer why we weren't doing that already. And that's because the difference between streamed shows and taped shows, right? Out of our 118 videos that we've got on our YouTube channel, I think like maybe 3 or 4 of them are streamed, so we haven't been doing very many streaming shows. And if you're going to have a show at a certain time, if you want let me just say this. There's the pros and cons to both. There's advantages to being pre-taped, and then there's advantages to streaming, right? So these are just things we need to consider. For instance, on the one, go ahead.
Well, you're thinking Wednesday, or?
I like Wednesday. What do you think about Wednesday?
I like Wednesday.
I do too. Just so happens, I'm pretty sure about this. Yeah, I know what part of the world I'm in, and Wednesday, June 20th. They've changed the programs and protocols and stuff on YouTube on how the streaming is done. But not that I've been keeping up with the tech that much, but yeah, I did fail one time to do a streaming event, but the last time I tried it, it was successful. And I think that I've already got the software installed. There's a number of different options they have, whether you're doing a webcast or you're doing going to be doing gaming and stuff at the same time. So maybe here in a little bit, we might try going live. What do you think about that?
In the next hour or so?
Yeah. What is your schedule like? What is your availability like for like the next? Are you available for the next couple hours?
Yes, just the next couple hours.
Yeah, and I don't even know that it will do it then or anything. What I need to advise you about right now is we've got Carrie Taylor on the way over here, and what I want us to have a conversation about a new business idea that I've got that was given to me by my roommate, Nick, who's a high finance type of guy and everything. And this is, not in juxtaposition to what we're doing. Oh, and I've got some stuff to show you I want to sell for You Don't Know in Basis, Texas. I'll show you that here in just a second. But the idea of a business that is a professional services placement service, for lack of a better word, headhunters. You know what I mean?
What?
Well, for instance, Nick is down here. He has a mansion and a Lamborghini and all kinds of nice cars and stuff like that. Fabulous mansion up there in Canada. Well, he's down here working in Texas, and he's renting a room right here at my luxury townhome. And so you may ask yourself, why? Why is he doing this? Well, because he's down here on a big contract. They're building the world's first smart highway, IH-35, which goes through several states, and but particularly right here around Austin. They're building that. They have been for a number of years. I'm a security camera expert, as many of the listeners know, and there's things that look like security cameras, but they're not security cameras. They're covered up in front with metal. There's just many different types of detectors now. Ultimately, they're going to be able to read your license plate. Not of course, read it optically, which they can already do to a limited amount, but read it through radio RFID, radio frequency ID identification, So there'll be an RFID chip embedded in your license plate, and as you're driving by, they'll say, oh, that's such and such, they just drove by, And the reason that they'll give everyone why this is such a great idea, well, the next Amber Alert, you know what I mean? We'll find these abducted children or elderly people that have autism and they've forgotten where they are and they're just driving around. They'll give us all the good, aspects of it, and none of the bad. For sure, none of the bad. And I really don't know if I should actually be saying this because a lot of Nick's work, and I can say this because I know he's enough of a professional. He would never reveal any top secret information to me. But believe it or not, there's elements of this smart highway that are in fact classified in top secret. So my roommate does have a certain level of top clearance when it comes to that. And because it's the Texas Department of, I'm not going to name it, but it's the department in Texas that handles the roads. He's got a special little deal on his car that allows him to basically park anywhere downtown for free. So if we're going out to a night of clubbing, we'll just take his BMW, and just park down there for free. So anyway, it's a little bit of a big brother type situation, with watching every, a smart highway, right? Smart highway. So it's fascinating. But anyway, getting back to this business idea, I kind of got sidetracked because just talking about Nick. And Nick's the one that gave me this idea. He would be in business with us as a business partner for this professional services finding company. And let me tell you, Remote, why I am so enthusiastic about this. Let me grab one of these things to show you that, because I'm going to do a comparison.